Good morning. I think I'm recording. Yes, I am. It didn't actually tell me. Zoom changes these things all the time. Anyway, I'm Louise Eddington, Cosmic Owl Astrology, Wisdom Weaver, and author of now 4 books. And this week is a big week for me because Ceres in Astrology is formally being released on Tuesday, the 12th. And I'm having a launch party at 12 Mountain, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. It's free, there's only room for a few people in the studio. I will be posting the link below, but I'll be streaming live to YouTube and Facebook, both my Cosmic Owl Astrology page and my Louise Eddington page. And I'm just going to stream for 90 minutes and just chat with people and celebrate and maybe pull a few cards for people and talk about the book, maybe read some excerpts from the book, things like that, just to celebrate this launch because this is my first self-published book. First, there's more to come. But anyway, also I would like to say that this week the Kindle version actually is released on the 10th because a trick I learned from the publishers of who paid me to write my first 3 books is that early reviews matter. So if you either have bought the Kindle version and have time to quickly read through it, or if you bought a signed version from me directly, I'm going to invite you to please go to Amazon and leave a review. If you didn't buy off Amazon, you can leave a review on the Kindle version. It does let you do that because as many reviews as possible will make this book more visible and therefore will get more of it out in the world. There's a little trick for you as well if you're self-publishing ever. Anyway, let's move on. I'm going to look at the week ahead starting tomorrow the 10th through till next Saturday the 17th. As always, I'll do the full card reading at the end, but here are the cards. First, 2 of Cups, then a 6 of Blades. This is the Red Threads Tarot, my favourite tarot at the moment, and the Ace of Cups. Right, but so that's a quick glimpse at them. So let's dive into the week, but don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe, leave me a comment, share if you like it. I try to at least heart all the comments. I'm a little bit behind at the moment because of book launch, but yeah, that's the way things go, right? So here we are at the start of the week. So I'm just going to lay out the foundations a little bit for you of the week. Mercury is at its station direct point and is stationing direct on the 11th. So that's another turnaround. We're going to start going over what's been reviewed, reflected, things like that over the week. I'll cover that again, but on the same day as well, Ceres, who my book is turning retrograde tomorrow. So as she goes out in the world, Ceres is retrograde, and we'll look in a bit more detail in that about that. But if you buy my book, you will read that Ceres and Mercury have a great connection to each other as boundary crossers. Okay. So also this week we have the big conjunction of Venus, Jupiter and Sirius. I'll look at that when we get to Tuesday in greater detail. I would like to remind everybody that as the moon travels around during the week, every time it gets to the very early degrees of 0, 1 degree and 2 degrees of these of any sign, as the moon enters a new sign, it activates all these big hitters. So Pluto, Saturn and Neptune, Uranus and Sedna and Haumea, and at the moment Mars as well. So the moon activates all these things, all these planetary energies that are speaking to each other, and then Mercury as well. The other thing to mention as we go through the week is we are really in the eclipse portal, as whatever we want to call it at the moment. Now, there's a lot of fear around eclipses. We have one on September the 7th and then 1-2 weeks after that. I find eclipses just bring a greater reset than a regular new or full moon. Eclipses, the area of life the eclipses are in, which means they are a new and full moon on the nodes or on the ecliptic. So this means that that is an area that's very potent in life at this time, because the eclipses are new and full moons conjunct the moon's nodes. And the nodes spend about 18 months in a sign. And at the moment, they're in Virgo and Pisces, and the nodes sit still through the eclipse season. So the nodes have reached 18 degrees. They did a little while ago, and they're not going to move for weeks because I use the osculating or true calculation of the nodes. Some people use the mean calculation. So here's a little astrology lesson for you, and I'm not saying either is wrong at all, but if you use the mean calculation, which is average, they're still at 19 degrees. Okay, so they're always very close, but I like using the osculating or true because my nodes change signs between the two calculations, so I relate more to the true calculation, though I can see some elements of the other calculation too. Right, that's enough astrology lesson. We're going to dive into the week ahead, and I've got my lovely list of aspects here. So on the 10th, you can see we start the week with the moon in Pisces, which is, very emotional, empathic, and also very creative. So it's also can be about kind of letting go and trusting, but it's water with water, and it's kind of heightened emotion. We've only just had this full moon, so we're still quite heightened emotionally as well. I think we're still in the full moon phase if I actually look at my moon app. So here's another little astrology lovely lesson for you if you like. Which one do I? Oh yes, the moon. There are other apps, but I have an iPhone, so we're still under the full moon phase. The moon, as I record this on the 9th, has 99.8% light, so it's only lost 2. By tomorrow morning, this time, I'm recording this at 12 p.m. Mountain, so 2 p.m. Eastern, the moon will have 97.5% light. Though we stay under a new or full moon for about 3 days. So we start the week. Heightened emotion is all that to say. The main aspects, however, on the 10th, and I'm just going to draw some lines and give you some interpretation of the week as we go through. Mars will actually exactly trine Pluto. Now, if you look at this pattern here, we have this ongoing air grand trine. So lots of ideas, lots of information, lots of news, lots of kind of invention. Air energy is very swords, blades energy in the tarot. This is of the mind. This is very mental. This is lots of, but also very inventive. And it's all pointing at Neptune and Saturn this week, and also pointing at Mercury. So I've talked a lot about these in the full moon video, but this is a lot of fire and air basically. So we start the week with emotion, but this ongoing energy of fire and air, of this wildfire energy of kind of burning things down, but also creation, is feeling very heightened and emotional. That's what I want to say. So that's how we start the week. So it's just this exact aspect is starting the week. I will also mention, though, that Mars and Pluto are the traditional and modern guides for the sign of Scorpio, and Mars is also the guide for Aries. And let's get back to that. this is all speaking to each other as well. This is very kind of intense, passionate, deep, digging into secrets, digging into what are we going to do about this, but also we're having a lot of revelations. Aren't we seeing more and more what is happening in the world? I'm kind of still feeling it will not hold, but one example is that Pete Hegseth, who, for those not in the USA, is our wonderful Secretary of Defense. Ugh. Is he Secretary of Defense? Yes, at the Pentagon. Anyway, he quote tweeted a Christian nationalist pastor who has defended paedophiles in his pastorship, or whatever you want to call it, and who also believes that women should be subordinate to men and that the 19th Amendment should be repealed. That's the right for women to vote. Anyway, so we're seeing more and more of what these people are about. It's being revealed. Okay, let me clear those lines. On the tense, these are just examples, by the way. You know, you'll see it in your own life as well. Seeing, you know, perhaps people might say things that kind of surprise you a little bit, and you're kind of like, oh, okay. Anyway, Sun is in Leo still. We're still in Leo season, and the Sun will exactly square Juno on this day. Now, I'll come to the exact aspect as we get to it, but the Sun is coming up to oppose Characlo as well, making a fixed T-square. Juno in Scorpio. Scorpio is often related to revealing of manipulation, abuses of kind of like sexual abuse, disempowerment of others, women, children, and people of color often as well. When I remember when Jupiter was in Scorpio one time, we had the big whole Me Too movement came out again, but here is Chariclo, Chiron's wife. She is helping us to take all these pieces we find and weave a new story. What are we going to do about this, right? But Juno, I mention this because Juno, as a goddess, was goddess of women and children. We're in the Scorpio, so again, we are kind of, well, we've both got the fixed energy of those that are in leadership, Leo, trying to really batten this down in place, these rules, these kind of ancient kind of ways of putting down anything that is not white and male, and sometimes those who support it as well, of course. Fixed signs they're hard to change, and they want to cling on, right, to this power. Again, you're going to see some of this in your life as well. You're going to see where you maybe have these unconscious patterns that are prolonging this kind of energy. Okay, so that's the exact aspect, Sun to Juno on this day. All righty, on to the 11th. Okay, I'm just going to move on a day. Here we are. We're on Monday, the 11th. So 9 year, 8 day, 11 gateway opening, but 9 is endings, 8 is kind of months, is bringing in stability, infinity. This is, you know, a very stable number. And this is 9, 10, 11. This is a 1 day. So anyway, I don't normally go to the numbers, but I felt like I needed to. So I'm going to draw some more lines to show you what happens today. So Mercury is here at 4:15, 4 degrees 15 minutes of Leo, and will station direct at 4 degrees 14 minutes of Leo. Mercury is a fast mover, so it's ready to station as at 9 a.m. Later that day, it's going to shift and turn direct. And at the same time, Ceres is at her station retrograde degree. The two are in an ongoing, unbroken flow, trine aspect, the two are heading towards the third trine. I did a whole video on that if you want to go back and look at it through my videos if you missed that one. Again, they worked together. They were paired up in the Roman Dei Concentes. They've both kind of got this messenger kind of aspect to them. And this is about changing how we act and what we shine a light on. Okay, so there's a lot going on. But two planets stationing on the same day, one stationing direct, one stationing retrograde, is a real kind of a bit of a churn. Okay, so it's which direction are we going, which one are we going in, so it can be a little bit confusing. So and also the moon is still in Pisces hitting the North Node, and again we're still under this quite heightened emotion for the start of the week for sure. On the 11th as well, on Tuesday, the exact aspect between Saturn and Uranus perfects. So this is similar to this Mars-Pluto aspect in that Saturn and Uranus are both the modern and traditional Saturn guides for the sign of Aquarius, where Pluto is. So you can see how all these planets are speaking to each other, saying it's time to really break the rules, and we can see that the powers that be are breaking the rules and the status quo, Saturn in many ways, but we are being invited to as well, over and over and over. Okay, so I just wanted to mention that one. This is breaking boundaries hugely, because if you think about the energy of just the planets, Uranus discovery in 1781 broke the boundary of the visible planets up to Saturn that we in this culture had been working with up to that point. So big boundary breaking. Just another process in it. Not saying that this week is going to break all the boundaries. This is kind of keep breaking them, keep breaking them. Okay, so on to the 12th. We have the moon moves into Aries and again activates all of this energy, including this kite that's been ongoing. In fact, there's two kites. So a kite is from this air grand trine with the strings, as my friend Kathy calls them. I'm going to be calling them that now, to Aries, to Saturn, now the moon, and Neptune in Aries, and Mercury in Leo. Fire and air, fire and air. Very dynamic pattern. The outlet being in fire. Fire is passion, creation, doing, but also phoenix energy burning down, right? Okay, and on the 12th, we have this massive lineup here. I've talked about it loads. I've done a whole video on it. We've talked about some history of it, how you're going to be able to see it in the east this week in as they rise in the morning before sunrise. So please get out and see it. It's quite powerful. As I mentioned in the video on it completely, Venus and Jupiter meet every few months, and it's always a nice conjunction. But this one, conjunct fixed star Sirius, is huge. Divine Harmony said it was predicted by the Egyptians. It's coming together of three quite fortunate energies. How it affects you will affect you in whichever house it's in your chart or area of the chart. Use whatever house system you like. If you don't know the house it's in, go and create your own chart on astro.com or astro-seek and look for where 14 Cancer is in there. Look for this symbol, look for the piece of the pie it's in, and then you can look for aspects to 14 degrees. I pointed out what mine are in the video, but to talk about what the collective ones are, this is an aspect of adjustment, a quincunx to Pallas Athena, Jupiter's daughter. Okay, wise justice, strategic warrior, saying we are creating the future, and this is an itch aspect. This is an uncomfortable adjustment aspect. And this is saying we've got to change things. Okay. So it's, and I've also done a lot of work with law of attraction work through astrology, and Venus and Jupiter are very connected to working well with manifestation, with creating a true vision of what you wish to bring into the world, both personally and collectively. Venus is our relationships, but also our values, our love nature, what we love, what we desire on this earth, not necessarily in material goods, but what we desire to create in abundance in all areas of our life. And then Jupiter is related to the natural laws of the universe, one of which is that law of attraction, and how we can expand our consciousness to create something very magical if we want to set our intention to do that. Okay. Somebody accused me in one of the comments of turning into a pop astrologer because I talked about manifestation and things. No, this is deep work. I have done courses on the law of attraction using astrology, and the people that took the courses have really kind of managed to tap into it, and it's ongoing work. This is not just the secret saying, oh, I want a red bike, and it appearing the next morning. I can recommend Mind Magic by neuroscientist Jay Doty to talk about how the science of using our manifestation muscles can really help to create a life that is abundant in all ways, not greedy. Mind, body, spirit, true feeling of happiness and abundance, or not happiness even, but fulfillment, shall we say. Anyway, I can tell that Uranus is opposing my Mercury because I'm talking a lot on this. So anyway, so it's a big day, the 12th, the 11th as well, a big day because of the planets changing aspects. But one other thing I will just mention is that fixed D square, the sun early in the day opposes Chariklo, Chiron's wife, the cosmic doula, who's helping us to birth this new story of both who we are and what we desire. Okay. On the 14th, so now I'm just going to go to the 13th first, of course. So Wednesday, a quieter day, and the moon, you can see now, is in Aries and is moving towards the sun. The moon is waning now, ready towards moving towards the next new moon. But the moon will activate this conjunction over here and will conjunct Ceres, which is actually in square to this conjunction. And so the moon will activate that energy, bringing our emotion in Aries to what nurtures us and what nurtures our very being in Aries, and how we come into that real center to create from that place of I am balanced, I know who I am, I know what I desire, and I know what actions I get to take to be a part of the creation of what we want to see in the world. Okay. So, and the moon will actually trine the sun as well later in the day, making its first major aspect after the full moon that we just had. So, on and on we go. On to the 14th, Venus is moving really fast at the moment because she's left her retrograde that was in March and April, built up speed. She's going to move towards her next Venus star point. I'll talk about that much later. But, you know, she's moving really fast, so she's catching up to the sun now. Okay, and as she gets closer to the sun, her morning star presence in the east will get lower in the sky. She will rise before the sun, but like it's less and less each day at this point. But on this day, she will actually square off exactly to Ceres. So desire, earthly desires, love nature versus nourishment of how we nourish ourselves and do a lot of self-care and nourish our own unmet needs in Aries. But Ceres, just stationed retrograde, is revisiting all of that because we deepen this work all the time if we work with the astrology to do some amazing self-care work and personal growth work. Also on the 14th, Mercury over here, now direct, now on the move already. You can see that it was station direct at 4:14, still at station degree though. Mercury will sextile an aspect of opportunity to Mars, who's part of that big fire and air energy, okay, and saying, like, let's start to bring some stability into what we're reflecting for is a number of stability and take action around these thoughts and ideas that are coming up and about what we want to create. Can you see how these things all work together, right? Later on the 14th, the moon leaves Aries and moves into Taurus. I always kind of like the moon in Taurus. It's always a little bit more down to earth, get really grounded, especially with all this wildfire energy, this fire and air. The moon in Taurus will be a real blessing for a couple of days. So that's a bit later on Thursday, on the 14th. That's really about getting down into your body and getting rooted and grounded as the moon wanes, because there's no other significant planetary energy in Earth at all at the moment. So we do have Centaur Pholus in Earth, but that's not a personal planet. And the South Node in Earth, but again, not a personal planet really. And so just really enjoy the end of the week when the moon enters Taurus. About 10 a.m. on Thursday Eastern. I'm not going to look up the exact time. Will be in Taurus for all of that time after that on Thursday Eastern time, right through Friday, and we'll look when it moves into Gemini, bringing back more of that air. So please, 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 for the end of this week's forecast, I'm begging you to really enjoy that grounding energy. And before that, you will have to consciously seek grounding, because this is high as a kite energy, right? So it's like, you may feel very scattered this week, like this wildfire moving within you. Okay, so on to the 15th. Okay, the 15th, Venus, yeah, she's already moved 3 degrees from that conjunction away from Jupiter. She's taking that expansive energy and being under the beams of the sun, of our sun in a way, and saying, right, let's get creating. But Venus will actually make an unbroken flow aspect. By the way, in Cancer, this is about birth, really. Birth, basis of security, all of those kind of things. Venus will make a trine aspect, unbroken flow to the North Node, which is kind of where we're headed, more of this interconnectedness. We want to create a world that recognizes that everything is interconnected, basically. So, and there's the moon still in Taurus. Last day of the week, but I will talk about a couple of aspects that are just after this last day. But first of all, a bit earlier, on Saturday the 16th, we get the last quarter moon, crisis in consciousness. Go into your body and think about what you need to release. Release. That doesn't bring you joy. Sun in Leo. I'm going to sum it up like that. That's really kind of the energy of this last quarter moon. Also on the last quarter moon, on that day, Vesta has moved to 18 degrees, which is where the nodes are at the moment, but the sun has moved on. But Vesta is going to square the moon. Sorry, not square, is going to aspect the moon's nodes as well. And this, let me draw another thing. So Vesta, inner flame, focus, commitment, also the state, but let's focus on you, on all this disempowerment of our sacred contracts that is going on, with Venus moving into full creative birthing energy to the North Node. This is another grand trine. This is a water grand trine, but this one has no significant Earth outlet except this South Node. And I'm going to say this is where we have, or where we're letting go of any ideas of service, of self-criticism, of being mean to ourselves about never doing enough, and moving into higher Virgo energy, the South Node, rather away from that reactive state of consciousness of this is what we were trained to do or believed that we had to do. I don't mean we're trained by plan, but just by the world. And so moving into that kind of higher kind of service energy of realizing we are in service to all that is, to creating a better world on this earth, like a priestess would, right? And so this is a very powerful day as well, you know, to tune into that more emotional, intuitive energy of really kind of releasing, letting go any of these old kind of habits is very Virgo South Node as well. And the South Node is also our habits. So it's about letting them go, letting them go. But also, of course, as I mentioned at the start, the nodes are going to stay at this point through the eclipses. This is an ongoing message of letting go of those old thoughts in our head, which is kind of that inner meaning energy of Virgo, which can run our patterns, and just become aware of them and saying, let go, let go, let them go. Come inwards, come into your inner knowing, your intuition, your connection with source, whatever you want to call it, and saying this, I know really what I need to move towards, but I have to step out of that rational, linear kind of brain energy and move and tune in to that inner knowing and connection with it, the feminine, the divine feminine, or God, or the wave energy of the consciousness of the universe, whatever you want to call it. But so this is really how we finish the week. And then on Saturday morning, Eastern time, the moon leaves the sign of Taurus, and suddenly we're back to all this fire and air. So let's just kind of show you that. And you can convert for your own time zones. So the moon moves into Gemini at almost exactly 12 p.m. Eastern on Saturday the 16th, the last day of this forecast. Immediately those like crazy kind of chaotic ideas and news cycles are activated again. But we can see that the air grand trine that was in play to Pluto and to Mars is breaking up, but it's still kind of going to be activated by the moon at the end of the week. And lastly, I think there is another one I wanted to look at, Hygeia, which is kind of a seer kind of quality asteroid, holistic health, but also got this preventative health kind of energy, is in Gemini. Again, ideas, perceptions, community as well. So community preventative health. She makes actually an air trine, again, ideas, inventiveness to asteroid Lilith, who is talk to the hand. And she, look at this, this is like making really a mini grand trine to Chiron and Aries. More fire and air, more ideas about how to say, no, not on my watch. We're not going to have our right to vote taken away, whatever, you know, whatever's coming up for you. I mean, I'm not going to say this is one of those weeks that will change everything. This is an ongoing year that changes everything. You know, we are moving into a time we've never experienced before. And I'm trying to show you the process week by week and day by day with my Substack daily writings of how we can work with this and how we can move towards this and flow with it rather than getting kind of like thrown off balance by all this chaos, because it is quite chaotic, as we see. You know, there's a lot of fear and panic about rights being taken away, quite rightfully so, but you can only do so much in some ways. You can only do your part to change that, and to maybe some things are meant to collapse so that we can build back better, to coin a phrase. Anyway, let's go to the cards. I'll stop talking about my philosophy of life. So, Two of Cups. We start the week with the Two of Cups. Twos are always really decisions, okay? Kind of all that air mind energy. Where are we going with this? What do we really think? You know, that's the energy of the two. But this is this particular two, the Two of Cups, is I am union, or I am closeness. I want to read you quotes, okay, from the book. Being deeply loved by someone gives you strength, while loving someone deeply gives you courage. And that was Lao Tzu. So tap into that energy of love and think about that quote. Now, this is another quote from Eric Fromm. Love is union with somebody or something outside oneself under the condition of retaining the separateness and integrity of one's own self. I kind of like that. So that's kind of seeing that separateness, but also I see this integrity of one's own self as turning that love back on oneself as well. So, you know, this is like the duality, the two of loving the self and then coming from love to love others and developing that connection and closeness. Okay, so ponder on that for the week. That's the Two of Cups. Six of Blades is kind of midweeky, kind of like the, yeah, anyway. Six of Blades is I am moving on. And remember, I keep saying, let it go, let it go, let it go. So quotes again, I love the quotes she chooses for her own cards. Linda Hill, the creator of the Red Threads Tarot. What was given to us by the past is adapted to the possibilities of the future. Think on that one, Carl Jung. And then another quote, even though you may want to move forward in your life, you may have one foot on the brakes, one foot on the brakes. In order to be free, we must learn how to let go. Release the hurt, release the fear, refuse to entertain your old pain. The energy it takes to hang on to the past is holding you back from a new life. Okay, you can't change the past. Let it go. And then, lovely card for the end of the week. Ace of Cups. Because it is quite an emotional week, but we end the week right before that moon moves into Gemini, right? But this is I am tender, and this is a new beginning, ones. Okay, so ready as we move it forward. There's three quotes for this one. So N. Scott Momaday, Native American writer, I have his book, or one of his books. I wonder if in the dark night of the sea, the octopus dreams of me. Just, you know, that's very kind of symbolic. So do you think what that means to you? I'll save my favorite quote for the end. So Khalil Gibran said, in one drop of water are found all the secrets of all the oceans. In one aspect of you are found all the aspects of existence. And then the wonderful Mary Oliver. I went down in the afternoon to the sea, which held me until I grew easy. I will just let you take from that what you need, and have a wonderful week. And join me on my launch party on Tuesday live, just streaming. Just have fun with me, please. Celebrate with me, come along. And a reminder that if you already bought my book from me, the signed copies, they're still available, by the way, but they probably won't reach you before Tuesday now, unless you live quite close to where I do. Please leave me a review on Kindle if you've had chance to at least flick through the book, and get a real essence of it. I really need those early reviews. I'm begging for them in a way. And well, it would just help me immensely, and it's something quite free that you can do, right? And also, if you are one of my early reviewers, I'm going to remind you to do it. I'll be sending you emails as well, but please, this is the 2 days, the 10th, the 11th, because the book will be released on midnight Pacific time, on the 12th, because Amazon's based in Seattle. So there you go. Much love. I will see you next time.